Alright, what is going on, everybody? We are finally back. Kenobi is done. Episode 5 is done. Episode 6, the season finale, is done. And I've watched both of them. I watched both of the episodes one time. I watched episode 5 last week, and then I seen episode 6 Wednesday. I wanted to do this review yesterday. I wanted to work on it yesterday. But, life happens, things come up, and I wasn't able to get on it as quickly as I would have liked. But anyway, we're finally here. So I have my notes here, and we're just going to take it from the top with my thoughts on episode 5, and then I'll do episode 6. I'm going to leave timestamps in the description below, so if you just want to hear what I think about a particular episode. Also, bear in mind, like I say, the way I do these videos is as I'm watching the episodes, I'm writing down thoughts in my notes while I'm watching the episode. And then I just go back afterwards through my recollection of what happened and just give my thoughts on it. So we're going to go right ahead and jump into it. So I have, this is episode 5. The episode starts, we see Anakin from episode 2. He's standing in what appears to be the Jedi Temple. He's almost like how he was in episode 2, when he told Padme he had to go help his mother. And then I wrote down poetry. So this was significant because the appearance we see Anakin this is a memory from episode 2, which makes sense because, and canonically from the movies, we have episode 1, 2, and 3. Episode 1, Anakin is obviously a little boy. He lives on Tatooine with his mom. And then Obi-Wan ends up becoming his master by the end of the movie. You should know what happens if you've seen it. Episode 2, we get the young, I would say Anakin is like in his later teenage years around this time. I could look up how old he was, but I don't want to really take away too much time away from the video to do that. But Anakin was like, I know for a fact that I think he was like 9 years old in episode 1. And when we see him again, it's quite some time later. Like he's like in his late teens, or maybe early 20s. I don't know how old he is exactly, but he's up there. But he's still learning. He's still in the training. He's still in the training phase. He's obviously getting to go out and do more missions and everything, but he's still in that learning process from Kenobi. So I like that the flashback went back to this version of Anakin versus maybe going even younger than that or older with how he looked in episode 3. This was a significant time. And I'm going to get to why I bring this up. I don't know if they did this intentionally, but this version of Anakin is right before he really gets that darkness in him. There's a few times in the movies where we see a little bit of darkness in Anakin, right? I don't know if most people pick up on this, but there was a moment in episode 1 where Anakin's very young and they're standing in the top of the Jedi council chambers, and Mace Windu says, no, he will not be trained, or the boy will not be trained, something like that. And Anakin looks at Mace Windu and he squints his eyes. And it's very deliberate. I think George Lucas probably gave them this direction. But that was something that I always noticed. Even as a kid when I watched, the Star Wars film, he looks at Mace Windu when he squints his eyes. And that's a huge detail with knowing what happens later. All throughout those movies, the boy's dangerous. I don't trust him. Mace Windu always expressed his kind of like feelings towards Anakin, not trusting Anakin, and he's dangerous. You refer to the prophecy. You believe it's this boy. Like Mace Windu always had something going about Anakin. But anyway, I digress. The reason I bring this up is because this version of Anakin, right? When Anakin goes to save his mother, and he finds out that she's been kidnapped by Tusken Raiders, and he goes out and he finds her body. Well, he finds her and she literally dies in his arms. This is when we see, Anakin. Like Come on, man. I got all that shit burned in my brain. Anyway, that's really when Anakin, like, low-key, kind of, like, symbolically turns to Darth Vader a little bit. Like, it's a little bit of that Darth Vader up in him. Obviously, he don't turn until episode 3, at the end of episode 3. But that moment when his mother died in his arms, that fucking darkness, excuse my French, that darkness really just came up. I mean, come on, your mom dies in your arms? You close her eyes. And I cried, man. I seen that, when I first seen that scene in the theater, it was a range of emotions, you know, because I obviously felt sad. I was very sad. I cried because Shmi Skywalker died, you know. She was in episode 1, that's his mom. And then I was like, kind of like, I had two ranges of emotions. Like, when he was killing the Tusken Raiders, I understood why he was doing it, but at the same time, I also felt kind of bad in a way, which is weird, you know. And I was in episode 2, I probably was in like middle school around this time. Think about it. Episode 2 came out. Let me look this up. I gotta look this up. I think episode 2 came out in either 2002 or 2003. Let me look. And I know episode 3 came out in 2005. So if episode 3 came out in 2005, I want to say episode 2 came out in like, it's either 2002 or 2003. Let me look. I gotta look this up. This is important. Star Wars. Episode 2. Release date. May 16, 2002. I knew it was 2002. Because I believe episode 1 came out in 1999. So 1999, 2002, and then 2005. Revenge of the Sith came out in 2005 because I remember where I was when it came out. Now let me make sure, but I'm pretty sure Revenge of the Sith came out in 2005. May 19, 2005. Because I remember I went to the theater to see that joint. I went to the theater to see, if I'm not mistaken, I might have seen every one of the prequels in the theater. I think I had. I know for a fact that I seen episode 2 and episode 3 in the movie theater. And I'm pretty sure I seen episode 1 in the theater because I remember like when the Gungans was fighting the droids and stuff, I remember seeing that on the big screen. Yeah, I think I seen episode 1 in the theater as well. I seen all the prequels in theaters. And I remember I had a Darth Maul costume and I had the dual lightsaber. That was my favorite costume ever. Anyway, I'm like straying from the point. Let's get back to what I was talking about. That moment is when that darkness really comes from Anakin. We kind of see him turn a little bit into Vader right there. Also, before he even leaves, this is the little Easter egg. I don't know if most people know about this. And I noticed this when I was watching the film, and it was also confirmed. Before Anakin leaves to go look for his mother, when he gets on that little speeder bike and he's standing and Padme comes out, if you look at the hut, you can see the shadow. It looks like Darth Vader's shadow. But obviously it's Anakin standing there and he had his Padawan ponytail. But the way the shadow is, it looks like a shadow of Darth Vader. So that's another Easter egg. But anyway, I said it's poetry. It's very poetic, right? That they picked that particular time. And at this point, we're learning that, you know, Obi-Wan was teaching Anakin. Anakin was very aggressive. He's always going forward, always attacking forward. And Obi-Wan, you know, told him, I don't remember exactly what he told him, but he's basically telling him, like, you always focusing on attacking and you miss things. And he was able to disarm Anakin, take his lightsaber from him. That's just summarized. And it's important that they chose that scene. So we see that Vader is having a memory, right? Anyway, Reba, the guy comes up, he's like, Lord Vader, woo, whatever. Reba comes and she says, oh, I am honored to be on the ship, you know, and Darth Vader's like, fuck all that, you know, where are they? I'm just paraphrasing. He ain't really say that. But she's just like, oh, I'm on. He's just like, look. Where they at? And she's like, oh, they're on Jabin. Huh? Where are they? Right. The tracker, they're on Jabin. He tells her to kneel, and he grants her the rank of Grand Inquisitor. Homie comes up, puts the little pin on her. Then we go to Jabin, and I say we see Kamal Janani, the character he played that was like an imposter Jedi. And we learn that the people there have been waiting to leave, right? All the people there, Obi-Wan looking around, you see people, ooh, right? So they've been waiting to leave. Ice Cube's son is like, look, Obi-Wan, I know you trying to dip and everything, but these people have been waiting. And Obi-Wan, he's like, you know what? All right, I'll stay and help, do what you need to do and everything. And then I said, he sees some lightsabers. There was a little handful of lightsabers like on this little thing or whatever. And it was also like a Jedi robe, right? And then they show Vader. Vader says to lock it down. Lock it down, right? So the little droid, Leia's little droid, Lola droid, it's got a red eye and it goes in the vent. It locks the place down, right? And then Obi-Wan says that they will attack, right? Because they were like saying that they could just hold out in there for whatever. Obi-Wan's like, no, they will attack. And this goes to the scene where I was kind of just talking about a little bit of a mix up in the order, but it's still the same thing. And then Obi-Wan gives the people a speech, right, about like they just need to hold out, lock the place up or whatever, right? Trying to give them hope. He gives them a speech about hope or whatever. And I'm just paraphrasing. Remember, I seen this episode last week. I remember the big parts, but all the small little in-betweens, we're just trying to get to the meat and potatoes right now. So, we go to the stormtroopers, and the stormtroopers come down, and then Reba comes down, and they shooting at the door. This scene was kind of, I'm gonna get to why this scene was kind of a little, So the stormtroopers are shooting at this door. Boom, 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 they got big ass blasters and shit. Let's just say this is going on. We don't know. Obviously, movie time is a little quicker, but let's just say they're shooting at this door for like 10 minutes with blasters and shit. So Obi-Wan says he wants to talk to Reba, right? I'm pretty sure some people tried to protest it, but anyway, eventually he went to go to the door. Well, the stormtrooper told Reba that he wanted to talk or some shit. So Obi-Wan's on the other side of this big metal door. And Reba's on the other side of this metal door. Big giant door, whatever. And they're talking, and obviously we knew that Reba, the little kid that they showed in the beginning, I think it was like the first episode where they're showing flashbacks of Order 66, and we see the younglings. Reba was the one in the middle. She was one of the younglings. So they showed the flashback, and we see Anakin, and he's walking with the 501st, I believe. And, he's killing younglings. Woo, woo, woo. Somehow Reba survives, right? And we're going to get to that a little later. But now I know when they showed Anakin has a scar. Around that time, he had a scar on his right eye, like in his area. That scene is kind of hard to really tell if they gave him the scar. I don't really know if they did or they didn't, because he has a hood on and it's kind of dark. But it almost felt like they maybe didn't give him the scar, or I don't know. You can't really tell. That's a nitpick. Ain't really tripping about that too much. But I guess I feel like maybe if they made the scar a little bit more noticeable, that would have been more just better for continuity. But I know when he does have his hood on a lot. Even in episode 3, Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do? And he's like, bzzz. He had the hood on around that time. And he has the hood on when he's walking up the stairs. So he had the hood on. That's cool. Only part he doesn't have the hood on that you see is like, and when they're looking at the hologram recordings, and Anakin's fighting, and he has the hood off, and he's fighting like 2 Jedi, 2 or 3 Jedi, I don't remember how many. Anyway, okay, so Anakin killed Reva's friends, and she was like, basically, oh, they were the only family that she had. So we find out that Reva, Obi-Wan is like, you're not serving him, you're hunting him. So we find out that Reva wants to kill Skywalker. She wants to kill Darth Vader. So she's trying to, I guess, rise up in rank or whatever the case may be to get a chance to kill Darth Vader. So Obi-Wan's like, I can help you. And she's like, is that really what you want? Do you really want to kill him or whatever? She's like, I don't need your help. I'm like, just paraphrasing again. So Reva turns the lightsaber on, sticks it through the gate, and cuts the gate open. That part was kind of ridiculous to me because I'm like, these stormtroopers were just shooting at this gate for like 10, 15 minutes. And all Reva had to do was come up and open it with her lightsaber. What was the point of shooting at the door if she could have just did that from the get-go? So that was a little ridiculous for me. Obviously, you know, it's part of the plot is to buy some time. Because obviously, you know, cinematically, if she just walks up and cuts the joint open, they're going to be in there. And there's no time to really flush out the scenes for the characters in the back. I understand. But, you know, to me, that was just funny. Like, I'm like, could you put a little bit more effort into making things a little bit more difficult? You know? Maybe make 2 doors? Maybe make 2 doors, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe make a thicker door that she can't get through with her lightsaber, and then they somehow get that one open. I don't know. Nitpicks. Whatever. Nitpicks. Okay, and now I say there's a ridiculous scene where there's 100 stormtroopers shooting at Obi-Wan and company, and they're all missing. Obi-Wan's blocking. And then I said, in episode 3, that wouldn't have happened, right? I said they're lucky that they weren't clone troopers. They're stormtroopers shooting at it. Because think about this. If those were clone troopers coming up that hallway, they would not have missed those shots. We saw how effective clone troopers were at killing Jedi. Look at episode 3. Go back and watch episode 3 when they're killing all the Jedi, and just see how accurate they were. And you know how accurate they are from the Clone Wars animated series. Like, the clone troopers were pretty effective killing machines. So I just found it crazy that all those stormtroopers were coming up the hallway and Obi-Wan's just there. You know, like, okay, like, all right, I guess maybe the Force helps you out a little bit, but the Force damn sure ain't help my man Ki-Adi-Mundi and Aayla Secura and everybody else who got killed by Order 66. So, but I mean, continuity-wise, they are stormtroopers. Stormtroopers are known for missing a lot. And then we get to, they go into the hallway, and Tala and the droid is some random lady holding back stormtrooper. The droid gets murdered. Tala gets shot in the stomach, right? She gets shot in the stomach, and we all knew she was gonna die. There's, you know, come on. She pulls out a thermal detonator, and Kenobi is yelling her name, and then Reba yells, "Get back," and then boom. So the loader droid, he comes up to Tala. He's like, you know what I'm saying? Tala pulls out the thermal detonator, and she blows herself up. Buys them a little bit of time, right? I mean, I don't really know how I feel about that. We're gonna move on. I did write this down. I said Kenobi feels more emotion for this lady than he did his fellow Jedi on Tatooine. I don't know. Maybe he's getting more in tune with his emotions. Yeah, I just found that funny. This Jedi came to Obi-Wan on Tatooine looking for help, and Obi-Wan just sent him, like, go back to town. Go back to the same town that, you got found out. And just go back, get away, and then he gets killed and hung up. But he feels more connected to Tala. I guess, he spent more time with her, and she's helping him with Leia and all that stuff, so naturally he got more acquainted with her. But it just felt kind of messed up that he really sent homie to his death and ain't really grieved for him too much, but he's just grieving for Tala. Okay, then I say Vader comes on screen for a brief moment. His helmet kind of looked like the Ralph McQuarrie art. Yeah, only for a brief moment. I think when Vader first came on the screen, to me at least, his helmet kind of reminded me of the original artwork from Ralph McQuarrie. I'm very sorry if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, but kind of like the design that they had in Star Wars Rebels. That very menacing, sharp, angular, kind of like just awesome Vader design that they had. And only for a brief moment, very cool. He tells her to stand down. Kenobi is already ours, right? Oh yeah, so Kenobi at this point, he's like basically saying he's going to give himself up, just to buy him time. So Kenobi goes out without his lightsaber, his blaster, or his communicator. He gives it to Kamal Janani. He says there are other ways to fight without a weapon. So he goes out, Stormtroopers got him shackled up. He goes out and he's on his knees, right? And Reba's there, the Stormtroopers are there. And they're kind of like whispering, but the Stormtroopers are like just standing around them. So it's like, what is this, like Force whisper? Well, they just talking, he trying to tell her like, this your chance to like really do what you trying to do. And then he ends up telling her like, you're not bringing him to me, I'm bringing him to you, right? And then she walks over closer, basically tell her like, this is your chance to kill him because he gonna be so focused on me, he not gonna see it coming. And she ends up listening, right? And then the Stormtroopers take Kenobi back into the tunnel, and then he gets away from him. It cuts and he's like beating him up or whatever, and then he runs off. And then we see it must have been another flashback between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Okay. Now I said, really cool seeing Vader walk down the halls. Also cool seeing him in the same area as his daughter, right? So I thought that was cool, because he's like literally like freaking 100 feet away from his daughter and doesn't even know. And it's just kind of like just crazy life coincidences, right? And I say, new thing is awesome. Vader pulling the ship is awesome. And then I say, get the fuck out of here. A double ship. Get the fuck out of here. So, right, Vader comes. The music was dope. The ship is flying away. Vader, he pulls the ship down, pulls it on the ground, makes it land, rips the ship open, boom, 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 boom. And then we see another ship take off. So I'm like, yo, how did they know to have a double ship? When I first watched it, it just was it seemed a little ridiculous. It's like, okay, y'all just knew to have a double ship. Y'all somehow knew. But, when I thought about it, I'm like, it's not out of the question. I'm sure Rebels have used decoy ships before. So it's not completely out of the question. But for me, it seemed a little ridiculous. But at the same time, it was like, how else were they going to get away from a force pull from Vader? So it kind of had to do that, I guess. All right, now we know at this point he's looking at the ship get away, and then Reva's walking up behind him, and then she tries to cut him, and he turns around. He's like, hold on, I ain't gonna do it all the way, but he's like, he turns around, he's blocking her saber with the force, and I think he pushed her. He was like, did you think I wouldn't see it coming or something? So Reva, and she's fighting him, and he's just like, you know, just schooling her with the force, man. And then she's spinning her lightsaber at one point, and he slows it down, and it's like, and he pulls it, and then he breaks it apart. He throws her the other half. So he's using her lightsaber and gave her the other half of her lightsaber. And she's like sliding on the floor. He's like, you know, fighting her, and she's really no threat to Vader. And eventually, I think he takes, no. One cool part I remember is he threw his lightsaber at her. Ooh, but she blocks it. And then I think he pulled both the lightsabers. She's on her knees, and she's looking like, and they show the flashback of when she's a little girl, Anakin. From the flashback, it almost looked like he stabbed her. It looked like he might have stabbed her in the flashback or something like that. So I don't really know the details 100%, but I'm under the impression that she got stabbed when she was a kid, and now she's getting stabbed again because he stabbed her again. And then your boy, the Grand Inquisitor, come, and he's like, you're in the gutter, you know, back in the gutter and shit, where you belong, talking shit. And we are, okay, so it was like Grand Inquisitor didn't really die. He didn't really die, but there was like no explanation whatsoever as to how he survived. But I guess sometimes you don't need an explanation. Okay. I mean, we're in the era of Disney Star Wars now, so, you know, so Grand Inquisitor comes out, and they just walk off and leave Reva, to which we, you know, we're at this point, you know, she got stabbed, right? So we, you know, we'll get into that later. So she's stabbed, and then she see that Obi-Wan left the little communicator that had the hologram of Bail Organa on there, talking about the twins and everything. So she grabs that, and then, okay, yeah, Grand Inquisitor back, and it showed Luke at the end. So that's all I have for this episode. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. We're gonna go ahead and go to the finale. All right, now we are going to go ahead and talk about the finale, episode 6 of Kenobi. We start off with, I believe we're back on Tatooine at this point. And long story short, we see Reva come up to this guy, and she's like, I'm looking for a farmer named Owen. And at this point, I'm like, how the fuck did Reva get to Tatooine in the first place? And how is she alive? Right? How did she get to Tatooine? How did she get alive? Quadruple explanation points. So anyway, okay. Reva's on Tatooine. She's alive. So you're just telling me, like, Darth Vader and his crew just left that planet, and then Reva was able to just find a ship somewhere and fly to Tatooine? Like, y'all not gonna make sure she's dead? Or, like, first of all, how did she survive Vader twice at this point? It's like Darth Vader is like the most ruthless, most feared, most efficient Jedi hunter, killer, Sith Lord in the galaxy. Yet this chick survived him not once, but twice. I get Obi-Wan, but like, I get Obi-Wan getting away because it's like, okay, emotions, and he playing with his food, and he wanted to make him suffer, all that stuff. Okay, but Reva, you might have made a mistake when she was a youngling. Somehow she survived. Okay, but she literally just tried to kill you. You're not gonna make sure she's dead? Okay, moving on. So, Darth Vader walks up. All the scenes of Vader were just cool, man. He's walking up on the ship, and we see his cape, and he's just like, increase firepower. And it's just like, to me, that just seemed very weird. This seemed very just to me, it seemed very uncharacteristic in that moment, because it's like, okay, Darth Vader wouldn't just want to blow up Obi-Wan while he's on a ship. He would want to capture him or deal with him in person. So to say increase firepower is like, what are your goals? Are you trying to blow up this ship? Or are you just trying to take out the engines? I felt like they could have, and this is also nitpicking though, it could have been more descriptive on what they were trying to do versus actually blow up the ship. But okay, whatever. That's something small, something minor. Let's move on. Yeah, I said it doesn't seem characteristic of him. He's more of a do it in person kind of guy, but I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Cool seeing young Luke, and it's poetic, to episode 1, Anakin and Watto's shop. Seeing Luke, right, so they show Luke and Owen, and they're inside this kind of shop, and it was very poetic. It reminded me of episode 1 when we see Anakin in Watto's shop, and he's doing things, and it was a very similar scene. This is I think this is when we first meet Anakin, because it's Qui-Gon and Padme. I know Obi-Wan stayed with the ship. It's Qui-Gon, Padme, and Jar Jar Binks, and they are on Tatooine. I don't remember if R2 went with them or not. But they're on Tatooine, and then they end up going in the shop, and Anakin's in there. No, they meet Anakin. Wait, how does it happen? I think they go in the shop, and they meet Anakin, and they're first. And then afterwards, it was like a sandstorm coming. And he's like, sandstorms are very, very dangerous. And then he takes them back to his place. And that's how they meet his mom and everything, and discover you're a Jedi and all that stuff. So anyway, I'm getting really kind of far into that. That scene with Luke and Uncle Owen reminded me of episode 1. Okay, and then I say Aunt Beru, they got a good actor. She kind of looks like her. And I said it's kind of messed up knowing what happens to them. Yeah, so those actors that they got to play Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, I remember them from episode 2. They were in episode 2, and they were at the end of episode 3. And when you see Aunt Beru, the eyes, man, I don't know if they did anything digitally or whatever, but she really looked like she could end up being Aunt Beru from A New Hope. So that was very interesting. Owen, on the other hand, this is a span of okay, how many years go by? Maybe 17, 18. No, I'm tripping. 7 or 8 years after this. It's like, okay. And we're going to get into that later. But okay. I say Obi-Wan gives Leia a holster. Yeah, so Obi-Wan gave Leia a blaster holster. I don't know who he said wanted her to have it. It's quite possible that it was Tala, but I didn't really catch who he said. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna make a quick edit right here, and we're gonna go back and see what he said, because that's kind of significant in a way. Well, I wasn't going to give you a blaster, Leia. You're 10 years old. Anyway, so they say Roken finds it, Before they got out, I assumed that the blaster holder is Tala's. She would have wanted her to have it. So that's just a little poetry item because it kind of is like rebellious nature. Tala was rebellious against the Empire and their ways, and she helped people. And that blaster holster kind of symbolizes kind of like a little bit of passing on that rebellious nature to Leia. Anyway, I say still no Qui-Gon. Disposition. You want to do it. It's about you and him. Okay. So that was Roken saying to Obi-Wan, basically saying like, you ain't got to do this. We can get this joint up and running and we can be out of here. And he's like, you want to do this. This is about you and him. And then I say, Inquisitor talking shit to Vader, right? Because Obi-Wan goes out in a drop pod and the Inquisitor, he's like, go after Kenobi. Inquisitor's like, we got the, I don't remember if he said rebels or we got the people right here, we can destroy them right now. And he's like, follow Kenobi, shut the fuck up. And he's like, all right, this confused me because Obi-Wan was in a drop pod. And I always thought that drop pods were just like drop pods, like in A New Hope, the droids get in a drop pod, like they not really navigate. I mean, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure they're not navigating that drop pod. It's a drop pod. Any drop pod that I've known in most science fiction things, they aren't able to be control. So it kind of confused me when they were shooting at the drop pod and he started turning, Anyway, that's a nitpick. Vader says, prepare my ship. He's going to face him alone. And now I say, it doesn't make sense why Reva is going to Luke's house. Maybe she wants to kill Vader's son. Now, at this point, I was just like, what the fuck is Reva doing at Owen's crib? Like, what is she doing there? But then I thought about it. Okay, she just tried to kill Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader. She failed. So what's the next best thing? Well, she could try to kill his son. She found out about his son, I guess, from the little device that she got. And she wanted to go and try to kill him. So that was weird while I was watching it, but after thinking about it, it's like, okay, the next best thing, you can't kill Anakin Skywalker, so no, why not try to kill his son? But it just seemed kind of weird. Anyway, I said, I don't know, I'm not really as excited for this Vader versus Kenobi, for this fight. So, at this point, Vader and Obi-Wan are kind of facing off again on this rocky terrain, planet. It was dark. There was it looked like there was a moon in the background. It was really dark, and it had a lot of rock structures. And I said I wasn't at first. Even now, I'm weird about it. I wasn't as excited for this fight because within a span of 6 episodes, I really felt like they had too many encounters. And this is another thing with oversaturation, I said this about Final Fantasy VII Remake. And the same applies here, I just felt like there was a little bit of too much oversaturation between how many times Vader encountered Obi-Wan just within the span of 6 episodes. Or within the span of if you think about it, what's the time frame that this is going on? Him trying to get Leia back to Alderaan. This is probably a few days going by, a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks. Who knows how long it is? But I just felt like it's too many times they run into each other. And Obi-Wan, we obviously know Obi-Wan's not going to die here because he's in episode 4. So it's like, how many times are they going to fucking encounter each other throughout this series? I know you want to show a little bit of, I know you want to give the fans a little bit of something, but it's just like, sometimes less is better, you know what I mean? Sometimes less is better. And it's just like, this really waters, if Obi-Wan, this is my opinion, maybe some people feel different about this, but it's like, if Obi-Wan keeps running into Darth Vader and getting away, it kind of waters down how dangerous Vader is supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, okay, how many times this shit's gonna happen? So while they were fighting, you know, there's some cool shit happening, but I really wasn't feeling it at the time. Now, I say Owen and Brew versus Reva. What the fuck? Yeah, Reva comes in the house and fucking Owen and Brew are like shooting her with blasters and shit, and Owen like hit her wound. And it's just like, okay, regular people can fight Inquisitors now? But y'all, what was y'all doing in episode 4 when them stormtroopers showed up? But man, like, come on, bro, like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? That's all I can say. I really can't surmount it into words. It's like, how are regular people fighting an Inquisitor? I guess she's injured, but she's still an Inquisitor. She still has the Force. Regular people don't stack up against Jedi or Sith. You know what I'm saying? Or even well-trained bounty hunters or soldiers or whatever. Like, it just don't work like that. But all of a sudden, you know, this Kenobi really showed, and we're going to get to that a little bit later, it was more so about the emotions, right? People wanting to protect something, gaining this strength to do so. And I guess, you know, I'm not really that upset, you know. I'll tell you this much. I'll take this over the sequels. Kenobi, Mandalorian, Boba Fett, whatever they doing, I appreciate this more than 7, 8, 9, just hands down. 7, 8, 9. Again, I could do some videos explaining why I hate those movies. It's so much to talk about on that. That would just take up a lot of time. And I really don't even want to give them the movies energy. Just talking about them right now is like draining me. So I can really go into detail, but I just don't want to give it any energy. It's done. You know, unless they make that shit Legends or get rid of that shit or whatever. They already dropped the ball, man. So, damn, that shit really just drained my spirit, just even talking about that shit. But so, what was I talking about? Reva fighting Owen and Brew. Their love and their wanting to protect Luke gave them strength to fight back. And it's not like they really significantly did any damage to Reva. They got a couple of hits in, but they ain't really hurt her like that. So it's like, okay. But just the idea of regular people fighting an Inquisitor after we saw what they were capable of, and also we know what they're capable of for anybody who watched Rebels. It's just like, okay. Anyway, moving on. I said I like Darth Vader talking shit to Obi-Wan though. Yeah, so I think Obi-Wan tried to throw a big ass rock at him. He was like, he caught it. He was like, I see your strength has returned, but something about weakness. And he threw the rock, and that was hard. Like, I like that. And then Vader hits the ground. he cracks it open. Obi-Wan falls down in this pit, and then Vader starts throwing rocks down, right? And Obi-Wan is supposed to be crushed. So Vader walks off, and I knew Obi-Wan wasn't dead. Well, obviously we know he's not dead again because he's in Episode 4. But it's just like Vader is really like not even attempting to finish people off. He's just being very like, all right, they did, I'm gonna walk off type. And this is like, bro, that's not Darth Vader. If you know from the comics, from some of the video games, it's like Vader is ruthless, bro. What is this walking off shit and letting people live? Anyway, I say we knew he was a crush, and again they fight. And then I say, get the fuck out of here. Obi-Wan is throwing rocks, right? So Obi-Wan is like, he holds his arms up, and he's throwing all these rocks at Darth Vader. And to me, that was just like, that was weird, bro. Because it felt like I was watching an anime or something. Like, what is this, like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z or something now? Where this man, he's holding his hands up and he's throwing like 50 rocks at Darth Vader. And it busts Vader up. So at that point, did that happen before or after? I think that was before, because he's throwing the rocks, and at one point Vader like does this, and then he gets closer to him, and then Obi-Wan starts giving it to him, and he starts like boom boom, targeting Vader's breathing apparatus. I like that about that fight. I like him targeting that, and then at one point I think he jumped off a rock, and he cuts. There was a cool move in this fight. I don't know if people noticed, but Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan, he had the lightsaber in his right hand, and then he put it around his back, and he grabbed it with his left, and then that was cool. And again, for me, it's just like, how do y'all go from fighting like this, and then, what, freaking 8 years later? We don't know the exact years. I'm going to say it's 8 years later. Within the span of a few years later, you go to fighting how y'all fought in A New Hope. Also, how does he go from looking the way that he does? I'll get into that. Anyway, Obi-Wan cuts Vader's helmet open. So at this point, we see Darth Vader. And this is poetic because this happens in Rebels. Spoiler warning right now if you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels. So I will make a timestamp so you can skip past this if you haven't watched Rebels. But anyway, in Rebels, when he fights Ahsoka, you know, she cuts his joint open. Something happened. I don't remember if she cuts it open. I think she did, because she jumped on him. And she's like, ah. Right. So, in Rebels, the right side is open. And we see Anakin in there. And he's like, Ahsoka. Right? And then he's like, then you will die. And then the Sith Eye comes. That fucking scene is so hard. Clone Wars and Rebels got some hard scenes. If you have not seen them, you need to watch them. If you're not going to put the time in to watch the whole series, I get it. People might not have time to watch the entirety of how many seasons it is, but you need to be watching. Another spoiler warning, but if you don't really care, you need to be watching Palpatine fighting Darth Maul in Savage Opress from the Clone Wars. And you need to be watching Ahsoka fighting Darth Vader in Rebels. And there's another point where Darth Maul fights Obi-Wan again on Tatooine. You can find all these scenes on the internet. A lot of these scenes are on YouTube. All of them are on YouTube, I'm pretty sure. So if you don't want to watch the whole entire series of stuff, those are 3 scenes that I highly recommend. Darth Sidious versus Darth Maul in the Savage Opress. That scene was amazing. That fight was amazing. Still one of my top favorite Star Wars fights. Ahsoka versus Darth Vader. And then watch Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan again. And there's a lot of times actually where they fight in the Clone Wars, but the last one where they fight on Tatooine, it's more chill, but it was pretty cool nonetheless to see how that played out. Anyway, let's get back to what I was talking about. All right, yeah, we see Anakin in there, and this time the left side of his helmet is open, and we see Anakin. I do have a little bit of a gripe. It's a small gripe. It's just basically, like I said, from that point on, we go, look, 10 years has already passed from episode 3 up until that point, right? They don't really look like, okay, so let's think about me. From when I was like 20 to 30, there wasn't really much of a change in my appearance. I got a little more gray hair, but I virtually look the same. So my whole point is, with Star Wars, episode 4 is right around the corner. Ben Kenobi, you know, gray hair, gray beard, old ass man, you know what I'm saying? And then we see Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi with his helmet off. Old ass man, you know what I'm saying? So maybe Vader can get by. We ain't even got to worry about Vader because, okay, Vader was younger. We ain't got to worry about Vader because Vader was younger than Obi-Wan, obviously. So by the time Return of the Jedi comes around, some more time has gone past. So maybe he can get to that point from what he looks like now. So that's cool. So let's just take that gripe out. I do have a gripe with how Obi-Wan looks, because for me, he doesn't look close enough to what he looked like in episode 4. So you're telling me within the time frame of like 8 years, he's going to go from what he looked like in the Kenobi series to Ben Kenobi, when 10 years have already passed and he really doesn't look that much different. They didn't even really put too much gray on him. I don't even know if I recall gray, but if I got to think about you having grays, you didn't give him enough grays. At least get that man a considerable amount of grays. They could have had his shit where it was like some of it was like going gray. Some of it was going gray at least, goddamn. Or made him look a little bit more wrinkly because he's on Tatooine and the fucking elements are fucking him up. You know what I'm saying? And then Darth Vader could have gotten a jab like, you looking old, son, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I actually cried, man, when I ain't gonna say I cried, like tears wasn't running down my face, but my eyes got watery, you know what I'm saying? Because Obi-Wan got all emotional. He's like, I'm sorry, Anakin. I'm sorry. You know, and his eyes were just teary. That shit got me in the feels, bro. Because I've been watching Star Wars since I was a kid, and I grew up on all the movies, actually, because I got into the original trilogy when I was very young. 4, 5, and 6 when I was very young. But really, episode 1, 2, and 3, I grew up on those. And to see their, obviously Hayden Christensen came episode 2. But just to see them, you know, go through those years together, and then to see where they are now, and it just hit me in the feels, man. It hit me in the feels. I cried on episode 3. When I seen episode 3 in the movie theater, I cried. I remember two parts significantly when I cried. Was when all the Jedi started getting murdered, and then when Obi-Wan and Anakin at the end of their fight, where he got fucked up and they were talking like, man, come on, man, that shit got me in the feels, bro. So this scene was very powerful and emotional for me. So I got teary-eyed, man. It brought back some feelings, man. And then Vader is like, I'm not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't, wait, what did he say? He might have said you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did, or something like that. I know he said, I'm not your failure, Obi-Wan. And he said something like that. But at this point, I think, I was a little, because when his mask first came off, his eyes looked kind of regular-ish. It was kind of hard to see because it was really dark. But I was like, where's the Sith eyes? I'm like, this is supposed to be moments, like he had Sith eyes in Revenge of the Sith. But then I started thinking about it. And then when he said that, I think his eyes turned kind of like Sithy-like, and he was doing like a little smirk, like, you know what I'm saying? So, and then I thought about it afterwards. I was like, throughout the movies, throughout episode 3, he alternates between having Sith eyes and having regular eyes. So when he's, like when he cut Mace Windu's hand off, he ain't got Sith eyes right there. And then when he's killing I think he had Sith eyes when he was killing the Separatists. Because I remember when he did that, I think he had a Sith eye. Also when he was on, when he was on Mustafar, I remember he was crying. Yeah, I remember it vividly now. When he was killing the Separatists and he turned and looked at the camera, he had a Sith eye. So no Sith eye with Mace Windu, Sith eye when he was killing the Separatists. Then when he was on Mustafar, it was a tear running down, and then Padme came, and then he ran up to the ship. He didn't have Sith eyes at that time. And then the next time he gets Sith eyes is when Obi-Wan cuts him in half, cuts his arm and his legs off, and then he gets the Sith eye again. And he's like, I hate you, and all that stuff. So yeah, but anyway, my point to bring that up is I'm noticing now that Anakin was always conflicted between the light and the dark. And I think his eyes changing from normal to Sith eyes kind of visually shows that. And I think that's a nice touch. And then he's like, Obi-Wan, basically trying to get he's yelling, Obi-Wan, So at this point, it was great. I don't know what happened to the video. I recorded a video for this part, but somehow it got lost, and I don't feel like doing it again. So I'm just going to basically say what I said in the video, just paraphrase. All right, so at this point, I basically said at this point, Vader was yelling at Obi-Wan. He was calling his name in a way, to me, I couldn't really tell. It could be two things. One of it was just telling Obi-Wan to come back so he could continue fighting him. Or the other reason was because he wanted Obi-Wan to finish him off. It could have been one of those two reasons. I really don't know. And I feel like unless the people who wrote it or we get some insight on it, I won't really know why he was calling him in the way that he was calling him. But that's what I said. To me, it either was like, come back so that we can continue to fight. But obviously Vader was like severely messed up. So it's like, I was thinking that it was just like, come back to finish him off. So then we go to Reva is at the farm. We see Luke run out the top of the farm, and he's running, and she's going after him. He never really looks back, so he doesn't actually see Reva. You know, he just knows that he's being chased. He might have looked back. I don't really remember him looking back. Anyway, he gets up on these rocks or whatever. And before I say what happens, in this moment, I was thinking like, okay, how are they going to explain Luke being chased by a Sith Inquisitor and him not remembering that? Because you remember how surprised he was to learn about the Jedi and seeing a lightsaber and all that stuff. Like, he had no idea about that stuff until Obi-Wan Kenobi told him about it in episode 4, New Hope. But, you know, so he gets up on the rock and she uses the Force and she makes him fall. Obviously, he falls off the little rocky mountain and, surprise, he hits his head and he's knocked out. So he never actually really sees Reva. Now, Reva has her lightsaber out and she's like she wants to kill him. And then I think they cut a scene to where Obi-Wan, I think this already happened. Obi-Wan sensed that Luke was in trouble, and magically he just somehow gets to Tatooine within 0.5 seconds. And Uncle Owen and Brewer are calling Luke, and he's like, you know, where is he or whatever. And then he said he was going to go look in the Dune Sea, and then we see Reva coming back, and she's carrying Luke. She put Luke on the ground, and Luke starts to wince. Uncle Owen picks Luke up, and he walks away. And then I can go back to the video because we have video of this. But basically, she's like saying, you know, I couldn't do it. And she asks Obi-Wan, am I like him? And he's like, no, you know, you're not like him. And he's basically giving her a pep talk. But my whole thing is, how is she alive? But anyway, let's go back to the video. So Reva puts her lightsaber in the sand. And then, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Then we go to a scene where Darth Vader is on Vader's castle. He's in his castle and he's talking to Palpatine. And he's telling him, like, he will not evade me again or whatever. And Palpatine just looking, you seem agitated, Lord Vader. And he's like, maybe your feelings have left you weakened. And he was like, what'd he say? If you cannot... He said something and basically kind of looked at him like with the Sith eyes, like he was basically threatening him. He's basically threatening Vader, like, look, if you can't get over this shit, I'm gonna get rid of your ass. That's what I got from what he was saying. Like, you know, and Vader, like, kind of like, he like, I only served you, master, or something. It was just like Palpatine just really threatened Lord Vader type shit. And yeah, that was a cool scene because they finally played the Imperial March. And I like, you know, we've been itching to hear a little something throughout the series, and the Imperial March finally came on. So to me, that kind of signified, is that the right word I want to use? To me, that kind of just like showed like the switch, like, all right, this is now Darth Vader, where he won't let his feelings get in the way of what he needs to do now. Because obviously that fight where he was fighting Kenobi again, he was still emotional, which is why he ended up losing again. So there's whole new meaning to that line in A New Hope. When I left you, I was but a learner. Now I am the master. So that word, that sentence can be kind of like reimagined now. It makes sense, you know, because he was still learning, you know, even at that point, you know, maybe not even. He could be saying that he was learning from Palpatine or just in general, you know. It's not exactly like, oh, from Obi-Wan. So, you know, it's cool. And then I say, oh, young Leia, and it's sad to see what will become of Alderaan, right? So we go to another scene of young Leia. I think she was like putting on a little outfit, and then she had the little holster on. We see her mom come. And then she's like, so who is it this time? And then Obi-Wan pulls up in the ship. And it was cool because, he started telling her about her parents. So I said, telling her about her parents was awesome. He described Padme and he described Anakin. And she says, will I ever see you again? And when she said that, I remembered that line specifically. That's from episode 1, when Anakin asks, will he ever see his mom again? And she say, what does your heart tell you? And he's like, yes. Right? So I heard that and I was like, poetry. And she calls him Obi-Wan in the end. And I said, I don't remember how she found out, but I'm sure she probably heard somebody say it, right? Because the way I thought it was going to go down, I thought she was going to call him Ben. This is how I thought. Like, I thought at the end, when he gets her back, she was going to call him and, like, say, goodbye, Ben, or something. And he would have been like, Obi-Wan. Like, or tell her, like, my name's Obi-Wan, or something like that. So, because we know in episode 4, she's like, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. So she obviously learns his real name at some point. So, whatever. She knows his name. That's all that matters. Yeah, and I said, I wish they made him look a little older because, like 8 years later, like how does he go from looking the way he does at the end of Kenobi to looking like he does in A New Hope? It's just like, goddamn. It's a nitpick, but it's like, come on, could have put a little more gray on him or something. And then I say, at this point, I think we see Obi-Wan. He's riding one of those things, and he goes to the crib. He goes to the crib where Owen's at, and Owen's like, I thought you said you'll stay away from here. And he's like, I will. And he's like, I think he says, all he needs is you. Like, basically it's just like, I guess giving them props for like trying to really defend Luke and look after him. And he was just saying like he going to chill back, And then he's walking off and Owen's like, Ben, you want to meet him? And he's like, he's all smiling and he goes up. And I knew he was going to say it. He goes up and Luke gets up and he's like, hello there. I knew he was going to say it. So another poetry, and Star Wars is famous for poetry, there's a lot of, I have a bad feeling about this, right? So yeah, that happens. And then we see Obi-Wan, he's in the desert. He's going towards, I think, the Dune Sea or something. And finally, we see Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson. And he's like, Master, whatever. And Liam's like, Qui-Gon's like, I've always been here. You just weren't ready to see, So I was just like, okay, this man almost died. Like, how many times? And at this point, I believe my phone ran out of memory. So I ran out of space, camera cut off. I don't remember what I said. But basically, I was just like, Obi-Wan almost died countless times on the show, and like moments where Qui-Gon could have popped up, especially when he was buried underneath those rocks. That's where I thought he would have popped up. But he finally pops up and he's like, I've always been here. I've always been there. You just weren't ready to see. My man Liam Neeson. But yeah, so finally get to see Qui-Gon. And oh yeah, that's what I was saying. I was kind of upset that that's all that really happened, and then they just fucking walk off, and it's just like, we're not going to get nothing from Qui-Gon about what's going on, about Anakin, or about the Jedi Purge, or anything that has transpired over the past decade. Like, we're not going to get nothing from that. They just going to walk off. So, I mean, whatever. It's cool to get to see him. I'm hearing stuff now. It's rumors and everything that they might be doing another season. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about it. It's like, what else can you have Obi-Wan do in the span of now until A New Hope? But there are some things that they can address if they do another season. They can have some more moments between him and Qui-Gon when Qui-Gon's actually talking about what has transpired and kind of what to do next. And they could also have a moment where maybe something happens that can accelerate Obi-Wan's aging process to make him look more like Alec Guinness in A New Hope. So, I mean, there's a couple of things they could do with Obi-Wan, I guess. But it ain't really, I personally, like, it ain't gonna be that much action-packed, right? It can't be that much more action-packed than what it already was. We've already reached the height of him facing Vader twice. It's like you can't really, where do you go from that point on, you know? Unless they do, and I don't even want to touch on that. I don't even want to, because some people might not have seen that stuff, so I don't even want to spoil it. But at this point, I want a Vader series. I want a Vader series, man. And I really feel like they're doing it in the background. They probably just keeping it on the wraps, and they might bring it up next year at Star Wars Celebration or something like that. But it's like, there's no way that you have Hayden Christensen back, and he's in the suit. He's in the Darth Vader suit, and you're not going to capitalize off of making a series with him. Just have a series of him hunting down Jedi, really go deep into his relationship between him and Palpatine, show him having visions of Padme, like flashbacks of Padme and stuff like that. Kind of dive into the psyche of Vader, show the relationship between him and, his troopers or something like that. There's a lot of stuff in the comics, Vader in the 501st, show some of that stuff. So I would say, like, show Vader right after episode 3, where he's freshly in the suit and he's with the 501st and they're like hunting down Jedi together. Just, you can do a lot of different time periods. But I would say, just to keep it kind of away from this era, go more closer to right after Revenge of the Sith, to where he's like fresh in the suit, he's getting used to his new suit, and he's got all this anger and rage and hatred, and he's hunting down Jedi, and we got clone troopers, and you can just have Jedi that have different fighting styles and different abilities, and they're on different planets, and just have him hunting them down. It could be a 6-part series. Maybe he hunts down like 3 or 4 different Jedi. Or, there's a bunch of stuff they could do with that. But anyway, how do I feel about this series overall? It was cool, There was some parts that I really, 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 really liked. And there was other parts that was like, but it's kind of forgivable. They didn't drop the ball as hard as they did with 7, 8, and 9. So, like I said, I'm happy. The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Kenobi, I'm much happier with these. And I actually enjoy watching these than how I felt about the sequel trilogy. So, Anyway, this video has ran long enough. I didn't really want it to be this long, but again, we covered 2 episodes. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. How did you like the series as a whole? How did you like certain things that happened? And you all take care. We're just going to end it off right here. Have a great rest of your day or evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much if you sat through and you actually watched this. If you enjoy listening to me give my thoughts on stuff, that's kind of cool. So I thank you. Anyway, we're going to head out. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one.